Beirut is under fire as Israeli warplanes continue to pound the Lebanese capital on Wednesday in a further escalation of the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. Lebanese authorities say at least 12 people were killed when apartment buildings and several residential neighbourhoods were struck. The attacks, which Israel says are aimed at the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah, are some of the most intense on the Lebanese capital in decades and have hit far from Hezbollah's stronghold in the city's southern suburbs.
On Wednesday morning, Israel brought the war to the heart of Beirut. It struck 3 densely populated neighbourhoods in the Lebanese capital. In the Bashura area, one building was completely flattened, shocking ordinary people who lived just metres away. The building had been targeted before. Israel called it a facility used by Hezbollah, the Shiite Muslim militant group backed by Iran. Locals disagreed.
There are no fighters here. They're all in the south. Let them fight on the ground, not fight and displace innocent people, elderly people. This area is mixed. It's not just Shiite. There are Sunnis, Druze, Kurds. Israelis are just focused on causing pain. Besides that, they've got nothing to do.
2 other neighbourhoods were also struck, including one close to government headquarters and several embassies. Residents said they received no warning and the missiles caught them unawares when they were still in bed.
We were sleeping when we heard the bomb fall on us. We came out and found the street like this, these 2 buildings destroyed. We've been out on the street since 8:30 a.m. with nothing but the clothes on our backs.
Hezbollah's Al-Mana TV station said the director of its political programs and his wife were killed in one of the strikes. Israel's military confirmed striking Beirut and several locations in southern Lebanon. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces said the strikes targeted Hezbollah facilities in response to dozens of rockets that were launched towards Israeli territory on Tuesday. It said warnings had been issued for some locations. Lebanese authorities say Israeli strikes have now killed more than 900 people since March the 2nd and displaced over 1 million more.
DW Beirut Bureau Chief Mohamad Chreyteh sent us this update.
Just 2 streets away from where we're standing here in Bashura in central Beirut, Israeli attacks targeted at least 2 apartment buildings without prior warning, and that suggests assassination attempts. And this is adding to the growing frustration of the residents here in these neighborhoods as it accommodates tens of thousands of refugees who fled their homes in the southern suburbs of Beirut, in southern Lebanon, and in the Bekaa Valley. This is a very central area, very strategic area. It's only a few meters away from the headquarters of the government, the Grand Sarai, the residence and the office of the Prime Minister of Lebanon, and few meters away from the central Beirut souks and the waterfront.
Let's bring in Fawaz Gerges. He's a professor of Middle Eastern politics and international relations at the London School of Economics. Fawaz, welcome back to DW. Now, Israel has been escalating its attacks on Lebanon. We saw they are displacing millions. Is this mission, from the Israeli perspective, going according to plan?
Well, we have just begun. Israel has just started this new round of war in the past 10 days or so. More than 1 million displaced Lebanese as a result of Israel's blanket evacuation orders, almost 1,000 killed civilians, mostly, more than 100 children, more than 40 medical workers. Really, you can summarize Israel's strategy in 2 words: collective punishment. What Israel is trying to do is to basically punish the entire social base of Hezbollah, the Shia population, in South Lebanon, in the Bekaa Valley, and in Dahya in Beirut. And basically, it does not really distinguish between military and civilian targets. In fact, the United Nations Human Rights Office made it very clear that Israel's evacuation orders and the mass displacement amounts to a war crime. Yet Israel does not really care. And finally, Israel has just launched what it called a targeted ground operation, and Israeli officials are preparing to call tens of thousands, in fact, hundreds of thousands of Israel's reversed in order, quote, unquote, according to Israeli officials, to implement the Gaza model in Lebanon. So this is very scary, very, very scary.
Absolutely. That's something I want to touch on a little later. Israel, of course, says this is an operation aimed solely at Hezbollah. How strong is the group at this point in time?
Well, Israel said the same thing about Hamas in Gaza in a 2-year war that has killed almost 70,000 Palestinians. This is, Israel says, Hezbollah, 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 Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. But yet the brunt of Israeli attacks are basically on civilian targets. That's the distinguish between civilians and military targets. Hezbollah's capabilities have been degraded a great deal in the first round, in the 13 months war between Hezbollah and Israel. But Hezbollah remains a major, major paramilitary force. Israeli officials have been surprised that Hezbollah continues to resist, continue to attack both inside Lebanon and attacking military targets and civilian targets in Israel as well. And for your own viewers, Hezbollah is not just a military organization. It's a social and political movement deeply entrenched in Lebanon. So even though that Israel could really degrade Hezbollah's capabilities more and in a greater measure, but Israel cannot really eliminate Hezbollah because it's a social movement, a political movement, and this is the major challenge facing Hezbollah in the next few weeks and next few months and next few years, I would argue.
And help us understand the role of the Lebanese government here, because they outlawed Hezbollah's military wing. They insist this is not their war. How are they positioning themselves at a time their country is under heavy bombardment?
Well, I mean, imagine a Lebanese government with a broken economy. Imagine a Lebanese government that's trying to basically restart the economy, to put the country together after a bloody war in 2024 in Lebanon. And Lebanon really has had a horrible economy, or hardly any economy, in the past 8 years. The Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, proposed direct talks between Lebanon and Israel, the first time ever that any Lebanese president uttered the word direct talks between Lebanon and Israel. Israel did not even bother to respond. And this tells you a great deal that Israel's strategy is to really punish the population, is to force the Lebanese government to surrender. The only problem is the Lebanese government cannot even take on Hezbollah, even if it wants, given the fact that Israel now is fully attacking in ground and air 24 hours a day. So the Lebanese government is pressed between a hard rock, Israel's all-out war against Lebanon, and a harder place. It's diminishing capacity, both economic and social, to deal with this huge, massive humanitarian crisis and take on Hezbollah, which is a deeply entrenched Lebanese social and political and paramilitary movement.
Mm-hmm. France has offered to mediate an end to hostilities. What could that look like, and would they be an appropriate peace broker in this setting?
Well, sadly and tragically, France is the only power that is trying very much to de-escalate. France is the only European power that's really trying to basically urge Israel not to escalate, in particular, all-out ground offensive in Lebanon. Sadly, I mean, Israeli Prime Minister listens to one man, and that's Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has the final word, not President Macron. And it seems that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has a green light from President Trump, and now the attention is on Iran, given the fact that in the past 3 weeks, all-out war, a region-wide conflict. So hardly anyone is paying attention to Lebanon at this particular stage because Iran is more important given the economic consequences, global economic consequences. So without intervention by the United States, by Trump, I fear that Israeli Prime Minister will use this particular moment to implement the so-called Gaza model in Lebanon and raise villages and create a buffer zone, as it did between 1982 and 2000 in Lebanon.
Over 1 million Lebanese have been displaced since the fighting started. Tens of thousands of Syrians have in turn left Lebanon. Looking ahead, how is this front of the war going to affect the region?
Well, I mean, let's be direct. Israel has displaced 1 million Lebanese. This is collective punishment by Israel in order to exert pressure on both the Lebanese government and Hezbollah. And the fact is, this really could become, this massive humanitarian crisis could basically have major impact on state capacity. The Lebanese state could collapse. You might have a huge migration crisis, as the world witnessed during the Syrian war between 2011 and 2023. So the reality is, the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon, unless Europe and unless the United States and the international community basically intervenes in order to stop Israel's march to all-out war in Lebanon, the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon could become Europe's crisis in a few months or a new year. And the question really is, where is Europe? Why is Europe not really doing more in order to stop this, humanitarian crisis and Israel's blanket evacuation orders that basically displacing more Lebanese as in the next few weeks and next few months?
As Fawaz, Gerges, Professor of Middle Eastern Politics and International Relations at the London School of Economics. Thanks for sharing your view on all of this today with us.
Thank you.